Then Michigan Works. Thank you.
The Michigan Works budget can be found on page D10. I'll make very, very brief comments and then turn it over to the Director of the Department, Chris Reilly. The total budget's just shy of $4.5 million, about a $70,000 increase over the prior year. No new positions from the 17 amended to from the adopted to the amended. Very small changes in operating and those kinds of things. So my comments are very brief. This program is entirely federally funded. So there's no general fund contribution to this program. And I'll just turn it over to Chris.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chris.
Couple updates from last year. First of all, our program year runs July 1 to June 30 of each year. And we just began the third of our and final of our current 3-year contract. So looking forward to the snow and also a new RFP. So I have every intention of having that contract renewed and then be before you again next year. So some of the 18 goals that we are looking at this year, we do have a reduction in our funding in which to serve our local area. We are looking to enroll 240 people, adults, that is, into classroom training. Adults would be that are identified as economically disadvantaged. Also, in terms of the classroom training, we're looking at 121 dislocated workers. Those are individuals that we identify as being unemployed and unlikely to return to their last occupation. On the other side, for folks that classroom training may not be the right path, we also, of course, run an employer-based training or on-the-job training. On the adults, we're looking at 63, and the dislocated workers, 73. And we are waiting to see if the state wishes to reactivate a program called the work-based training for special populations. We have a request out that should they reactivate, we are hoping to receive $220,000. And we use those funds for, again, employer-based training in which we help aid job seekers looking for work. We try to match them up with employers, and then we identify the needed period of time for training to be successful at that job. With what we've already operated, we cap those contracts with the employers at $4,500. And what we do with that money is whatever their starting pay is, we will reimburse up to 50% of the individual's wages during that defined training period. Some of the things we're looking at doing right now, we are in the middle of a transition, and I mentioned this last year, and we're really at the final point of implementation, is we are now operating under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which replaced the Workforce WIA. Don't ask me why I just lost the I, but we are implementing that. Unfortunately, as I've notated under my key performance metrics, I like to generally give you an idea of where we're at in terms of our performance measures. Unfortunately, the federal government has not yet released proper measuring data. So we are operating at a moment right now where they are not giving us official performance figures or any means for us to locally calculate that. It sounds a little funny saying that. I hate to express that, but that's unfortunately where we're at right now. They have changed a few of our performance measures, so they're pretty close to what we did before. They've added a couple new performance measures. And generally what we're measured in would be that of once someone has completed a training program and we have exited them to employment, we look at, are they working? Is it related to the training? And then how far out? We usually measure in the past 3 quarters upon our exit date. Now we're looking at a full year. So we gather data at the 2nd quarter after we exit and the 4th quarter to see are they working It used to be we would measure the same people and check them for retention. Now it's a wild card. They pull whoever to see, are they working the second quarter, and then people they pull, are they employed in the fourth quarter after that exit. We also check that if people started a classroom training, did they end that training and earn a credential? So did they have successful completion through school? Two measurements that they are adding that they have not unfortunately fully defined to us is a measurable skills gain. So upon completion of whatever that training program is, did they earn measurable skills? And that's what they aren't defined as what, not so much what is a measurable skill, but how do you measure that, to what extent? And then also an employer satisfaction survey. So we are, one thing under WIOA, we had the upper hand already, is our relationship with those employers and how are we assisting with their employment needs. Long-term goals that we've been working on, I've been working with a plan with our local state of Michigan parole office to work with folks that have been received back to our area and assist them with their job search and get them into employment. Because as you all know, the best thing you can do with someone that comes out of the system is get working. If they don't find work, they can find themselves back into the system, and we certainly want to avoid that. So we've been working on some development techniques, job readiness development techniques, and overall orientations with the parole office to help them with that process, to work with those folks that really want to go find some work. I don't want to say we derailed, but our process has been slowed. Unfortunately, our Roseville Career Center, which is at 12 and Groesbeck, had a fire last May. So everyone in that building has been displaced. And we cohabitated that building with the state parole office. So it took a few months for everyone to really get situated in their temporary spots. So we're now back on track on that. And we're coming up with means to provide them that data. And many of you have heard me speak before of our Veteran Employability Boot Camp. We are borrowing from that model, which has proved very successful, to do a similar employment workshop, couple-day intake to really get them up to speed on their resume, identify the gap that they're clearly going to have on a resume they're interviewing, and other matters like that. So they have a very good chance to go out and find work. And then along with that, we are working on, as we always have, we do have access to fidelity bonding. If you're familiar with that, it's, if you will, it's an insurance program for employers, which takes some of the concern off if they're working with someone that had an issue on their record, that if anything should happen at work, if things were stolen, things were damaged, it covers that expense. And then, of course, there are tax incentives that we provide information on. There are tax incentives available for veterans, but also for ex-felons. So if they hire someone, the employer can apply for that and get a tax incentive.
Can you speak to the budget numbers as they relate to the decline in enrollment? Employment's down, so your numbers coming into the department are down. How does it affect your budget? Speak to more directly about your items in your budget that have been affected positively or negatively as a result of the increase in employment.
Yeah, we are definitely seeing a, I don't mean to yell at everyone, I want to make sure you can hear me too.
Yeah, fine.
As the economy does get better, our budgets typically do go down. When we had that 10-year recessionary period, we clearly had a much, much larger budget than what we see today as the economy continues to improve. Especially during the 08-09 period of time, I saw my staff go from 37 case managers to 63. And, now we're coming back down to the norms that were in the low 40s. So we are expecting for the next couple of years, as Michigan's unemployment and as the local area, the unemployment number goes down, we do see less funding come into this area. They do distribute the funds throughout the state based on the needs of the local area. So they look at, Detroit's a separate area, Wayne County, less Detroit is an individual area. we combined with St. Clair County is our service area. So they look at what the unemployment number is, and that determines how much funding we need over the next service area. And there's 16 in the state. So we are seeing that decline. And we're also keeping an eye on the proposed federal budget, which identified that our area could potentially, as presented, see a $2.4 million decrease in funds, $1.9 million to Macomb County, and then the difference to St. Clair County in the funds that we have really become accustomed to seeing.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions on the budget? Commissioner Gillette? Yeah. Commissioner Gillette. That's why I called on you first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate that. This may be somewhere in here, I'm not finding, but how many participants from Macomb County went through your training or services in this most recent year that you have numbers for?
Solely Macomb County?
Yes.
Unfortunately, I don't have that in these figures. I'm very happy to get that back to you.
Okay.
I guess it's interesting because, being a Macomb County department, of course, but my day-to-day, we see this as a whole service area. We do have those figures. I did not readily provide just the Macomb. I'm happy to get that back to you.
How many for the area that you're responsible for, regardless of where they live? How many people went through the training or participated in that?
In 2017, the year that we just completed, we enrolled 505 income challenged individuals in classroom training. Now, as I was talking about this year, we did have a goal of 350. We enrolled 505. For our dislocated workers, again, the folks in our area that had lost their positions.
Is that the primary service that's provided by your department, essentially?
I would say that's probably our most talked about, the most identifiable.
Okay.
The mission of the department is solely to get someone to work.
Right.
And people will come to us because they are unemployed, because they have a low-paying job and they need to better for their family, or they want to do a career change. So a lot of that is answered by what's their current credential like. Do they have a credential? Is it a credential applying to what we identify as a declining occupation? Or does it just simply need to be updated? One of the easiest examples would be IT. So we kind of go to that a lot because that is an identified gap, their skills gap. But it could be just as simple as they walk in and they're not comfortable with how to interview properly, or they have a resume that's working against them, and just cleaning that up alone can get them back to work.
So that would be people that are included in that 500 group that are looking to take advantage of that kind of assistance.
The 505 are people that solely were enrolled in classroom training.
Okay, so these other type of services are services in addition to those.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then the other question is, you noted that the budget's been going down as a result of the, thankfully, employment going up. But according to the documentation, we have 2 more people with the department than we had in 2016. Is there a reason why we're having more staff being added while the needs are going down?
We did have some additional grants that we were running that are not in place right now. And we also want to provide not only a good service to our individual job seekers, but we also wanted to be sure that we provided to our employer-based customers. And the expansion included some folks that were paid directly out of the TANF funding. So our plan here called for so many enrollments based on the dollars we received, and that's based on the average cost of training per individual. It was able to be worked out based on the money actually spent that was able to incorporate then the additional staff.
Okay. I'd be curious about the total numbers that come to the department, because if we just do that 500 people, roughly 500 number, that's like 9,000 people per person, $9,000 per person if you take the budget and divide it by that 500. So I'm sure there must be a lot more going on than just that. So
Yeah.
If there's a total number of Macomb residents that they're taking advantage of these services or benefiting from these services, that would be helpful, so I could see what that boils down to per per person help, so to speak.
I'd be happy to do so.
Thank you.
One thing to help clarify, hopefully not confuse, I'll add to, hopefully with your answer, 2 of the grants I mentioned that were in play for a good amount of the program year that did end. One was a national emergency grant, and the other was, again, this work-based learning for special populations. And we enrolled people in those classes or in training under what those funds would allow. And if it gets to the point that that fund has been maximized out, we would then also offset that with, they were eligible under several grants, so we could possibly take money out of a different grant. So where it might look like 9,000, you know, it's not that a single person used entirely the adult fund. It could have been partially the work-based training fund and then a difference in the adult too.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anybody else on the budget? Very good. Thank you for the detailed information. We appreciate that. We'll see you later.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Need a motion to receive and file the report. Moved from Commissioner Sauger, supported by Commissioner Leonetti. All those in favor, please vote. Or not.